Hello, it's Dave here. This is my wife, Kathy.
Hello.
This is The Cinema. It's the podcast where we walk home from the movies. Today, I am going to take our kids to see Inside Out 2 for the second time. You've already taken them, Kathy, without me, and I will never forgive you for this breach of trust.
It was brilliant. That's my review.
That's your full review? Yeah.
No, we've plenty to talk about. I haven't discussed it with you since we saw it. Sadly, our kids have talked about it a lot.
Yeah, I couldn't make it.
Spoiled it a bit for you.
I couldn't make it, but luckily the kids are happy to go twice to a movie.
Yeah, they'd go 10 times to any movie of any quality.
They'll watch anything over and over again.
Dave's going to go see Inside Out 2. We already know that it is like smashing box offices. I think the highest grossing animation in a decade at least.
Is that right? I thought it was the second highest. Oh, but there's all those caveats to it. It was like not adjusting to inflation.
Yeah,
and
all that stuff.
But
basically,
whatever.
It's
a big story. Pixar is back. They've had a very bad few years. Lightyear, big bomb. Bad film, I thought as well. Elemental did okay, but not a huge
But Elemental
smash
was
hit.
kind of just a wannabe Inside Out. As much as I enjoyed Elemental, it didn't feel different from a marketing perspective, albeit when I watched the movie, Ashley really liked it and thought it was kind of like a rom-com.
It was alright, yeah.
But it felt like
good.
a Inside Out light marketing campaign.
Yeah, and then
I think this is a favourite. It's been a long time since the first one came out. It's been like 10 years. So people are kind of ready for it. They teed up in the first Inside Out that Riley, there's a big old puberty button there that the emotions didn't know what that was. It feels ripe for a sequel. It doesn't feel forced, like a Cars 3 situation.
How dare you? To be fair, we haven't seen Cars 3, so maybe Cars 3 is a masterpiece.
Maybe
for all we know. Don't care. Yeah. Right. So I'm looking forward to seeing this. I'm not sure what else we can contribute at this stage because one of us has already seen it. So
this is not like us. This is very odd.
No, we're doing it all wrong. I'm going to take the boys now to see it, and we are going to check in with you afterwards. See you soon.
Where can I put my stuff?
A new emotion.
Oh, I'm sorry. We wanted to make such a good first impression.
What do you mean we?
I'm Envy.
Look at your hair. Oh yeah, not happening.
That's ennui.
On what?
It's what you would call the boredom.
What's your name, big fella?
That's embarrassment.
Welcome to headquarters, embarrassment. Oh, we're doing a fit. No. Oh, nope. Going high. Oh, you got a real sweaty palm there, buddy.
Look, we all have a job to do. I plan for the future.
You want to sit with us?
These girls are so cool. We can't let her know we're excited.
I got this.
Joy, I'm just curious. Maybe I could.
Thank you.
help.
Not now.
Yeah.
That's not going to haunt us for the rest of our lives at all.
Oh, hi there, welcome back. And if this is your first time at the cinema, there will be no spoilers for Inside Out 2 until, of course, we approach Spoiler Street. And you will be warned there's a 10-metre warning to Spoiler Street. So, we've now seen Inside Out 2. Each of us have seen it once. Our kids have seen it twice. Between us, as a family, the Cullen Corkeries have seen this movie 4 times. I think it's the math. That's a lot of movie tickets.
It's a lot of Inside Out.
Yeah, 6 movie tickets, I guess. So, Kathy, why don't you kick off? It's been, a week since you've seen it, but how are you vibing? How are you feeling about it?
I had a really good time with the film. I wouldn't say I loved it, but I really, really liked it, really enjoyed it. I think it's very poignant to kind of follow the story of somebody as they become a teenager, because your emotions do really broaden and your worldview changes, and I think it's very clever to capture all that in this film. And I think it would be, for a lot of kids who have probably grown up having watched this movie, who may themselves be kind of hitting puberty now, it could be really revelatory for them to kind of put maybe some names on some feelings and kind of relate to Riley's situation. So I think it's very well done. Like, I do think it's still very kind of innocent and timid, and it's very kind of tweeny. And I think our kids loved it, and we had such fascinating conversations with them afterwards about different feelings, and they love anxiety, because I think Elliot loves anxiety because she's so weird looking as a creature, and she moves really quickly and speaks really quickly, and they kind of loved anxiety. But their favourite was ennui, the boredom one.
No,
but
Elliot said his favourite was Anxiety. No, I don't know, did he change his
he's
mind on
changing
the
his
second
mind.
year?
But they.
Oscar's favourite was Ennui.
What's cool about it though is that afterwards we were all talking about different feelings and then this is so sweet, but Elliot gave me a hug and he said, now I'm feeling joy, and I just nearly passed out and died. So I think it's a great tool for like speaking about feelings with your kids. And I know someone who's a therapist, and she said she actually recommends that all kids watch it because it really helps you identify feelings. So I love the addition of the new feelings. I had a great time. What about you, Dave?
Same, and just to pick up on your point there, even since we watched the first Inside Out with them at home, we felt the same experience where, yeah, it gives you a language with which to communicate and relate to kids about being overwhelmed with feelings. So we often say, who's in control now? Is anger in control? And do you want to maybe try and balance some of that out? I think it's a fantastic tool for parents. What did I think of this movie? Yeah, I think I agree with everything you said. I think it's a great movie. I think the thing with Pixar historically, and I know they haven't had a great run, and it does feel like they've lost the magic.
Since they sold to Disney, they lost the magic.
I think so.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Soul was
like Star Wars.
Soul was good, but I'm like, it's not. I don't know.
Soul was
Something's
good.
It was good, but they're all kind of good, but not great, except Lightyear, which was bad.
Lightyear wasn't bad.
You thought it.
Fine.
You liked it. I thought it was bad.
Fine.
Cars 3 though, masterpiece. So but I think just something's been missing, and but one thing that has always been, I think, consistent with them is that they can turn out a very good movie from a very unnecessary sequel idea. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think they have done that here, much like they've done with the Toy Stories, or even I would say Monsters University, where they take a concept that was brand new and fresh, beautifully done, that you think there's no way you can turn that into a sequel. I think particularly Inside Out, I think it's particularly challenging to turn into a sequel, and I think they've taken that challenge on. They found new and interesting
I don't
ideas.
think it's challenging at all. I think it makes perfect sense to do puberty.
Sure, I mean, yeah, but it's still like it's a sequel that is there for financial and monetary. I really don't think this feels like, oh, we've got this huge story to tell. This feels like,
I agree.
oh, we need sequels
Yeah.
because they're working, and now that's all we're going to get because it's such a huge box office success. But I think that's my point is, while it's not born out of the same sort of creative, beautiful impulse that the generation of brand new Pixar IP tends to give you, nonetheless they can turn like that into something I think quite beautiful and special. And I think they've done that with this movie. I think it's got something to say. Like, Pixar at its best is speaking to adults and children in tandem.
Which is why Toy Story is so great, because it's the nostalgia of growing up and your childhood toys and all that.
So, and it's not speaking down to either of them, right? I always feel like a lot of the lesser animation studios just feels like they're just pandering to one of those audiences, whereas Pixar does, at its best, does that beautiful dance between being, and this shouldn't work. This is like what this is dealing with on face value. It's largely about dealing with anxiety, panic attacks, things that you don't think should relate to a young child, or even our kids 6 and 4. Yet they came away being massively entertained by it,
And
coming
also
away
kids,
with a visual
like,
language.
Even kids get anxiety from a very young age. So I think like it's clever that they added it into it this film, but it could have always been in the film, you know. It's just in Riley's case, she's only experiencing it for the first time. But what I loved in our screening that I took the boys to was that it was actually filled with a load of young teenagers as well.
Yeah, because like you said, they would have watched it as kids.
Yeah, whereas like when we went to Garfield, it's only young kids at that, you know.
Yeah.
And this will be one of the reasons it's such a hit. It's like cross-generational, but it's also cross kids age groups that it's relevant, because it's about a teenager. So your central character is older. And then, of course, our kids just love, especially the little one, when like angry gets mad and like he you know, the fire comes out of his head.
Yeah.
So there's like the visual stuff that little kids like as well. But they really thought about the concepts, like, and I think that's the beauty of a film like this, is that they managed to take those concepts, visualize them, make it very thought-provoking, but also have the visual gags. Like, it's no joke to do all the stuff Pixar does together.
No, exactly. It's a real juggling act because they've got all this stuff happening in Riley's head. Then it has to relate to what's happening on the outside with Riley's actual, like, real life. And the way the two sort of hop back and forth and are influencing each other from an editing perspective is fantastic, and I think that, so yeah, it's very well thought out. They also take a few big swings by introducing kind of new ideas, which I guess we'll talk about in Spoiler Street. And I thought they were a little bit hit and miss, but you know, on the whole, I think this movie has a lot. It has a lot to say. It has a lot of heart. I think that's coming through. It's a bit crowded, I think, by adding the same amount of characters again, and not to say, I think all of the new characters were excellent and needed, but I think the downside to that is that mostly the old characters are benched, I would say.
Well, I thought it was interesting, Disgust was really benched.
Yeah, Disgust, but now she didn't do much in the first film either,
Disgust
to be
is something
fair.
that, like, say, a toddler would feel a lot about food. But actually, as a former teenage girl, disgust is something you feel a lot then too.
Exactly, especially when it discussed herself.
Yeah.
The emotion as it's conveyed as a character. She is
like
essentially like a teenage girl.
She's
isn't
not
she?
there at all. It felt like Stranger Things, where we're all like, please kill off some of your characters. Now,
And
you can't
anger-
kill off emotions. and
Anger,
that's-
fear, benched as well. But then you can't. But I was thinking about this. You
can't have them all.
You can't kill off the
can't kill off her
emotions. They don't just
emotions,
no longer exist.
I mean, the whole point of the film is that, as with the first one, is that you have to coexist, but you're just more complex. You have more complex emotions as you get older. You have more to navigate with, and like, you know, you can have a range of emotions in like the space of 1 minute, right? So I think the film did a really good job of balancing them. Anxiety is the lead new character. She's fantastic. I absolutely loved her. We're going to go to Spoiler Street now, though, and before we get there, you might hear a quick break.
Okay, so spoilers now for Inside Out 2 and I guess Inside Out 1. Previously on Riley's life. So, one thing I really liked about this film is that there's no villain. And I mean this in both the
Anxiety is
inside
the
her
villain.
head. Yeah, anxiety is the villain, but it's also not. Like, anxiety is very much trying to do the right thing. Do you know what I mean?
But it's funny because, like, we know that anxiety is just a feeling and a normal part of life. But Elliot, our 4-year-old watching it, turns to me and goes, anxiety the bad guy? And
Yeah.
I said,
But the movie's kind of presenting
kind of, yeah.
the bit when they're in the imagination land in Riley's head, and I thought this was really an interesting idea. The way, like, imaginations on a screen, like 1984 style,
it was brilliant.
like overseeing these, and even the way they had turned, they'd created like office cubicles out of playing
It was
cards.
so clever.
It's really
and the
clever stuff in
idea
it.
of anxiety being something that's always looking to the future and thinking negative things is really true. So in that sense, of course, in the film, anxiety is a bad guy because instead of just letting Riley enjoy her like camp experience, it's creating all this these scenarios that are stressing Riley as much
Yes.
that Riley can't sleep.
But what I
So
loved
that is very interesting.
But so interesting, and what I loved is that but the movie also acknowledges beautifully at the end that you cannot, like, anxiety has a function. It
Anxiety
helps you
started
to
out-
plan.
Did you notice anxiety started out on top though? Because anxiety said, oh my god, what if we embarrassed ourselves, goofed off, got in trouble and everyone hated us? And Joy said that would never happen, and then Joy took control and they acted really young and
Yes.
silly. They did that selfie.
Exactly.
And then it was like exactly what anxiety had predicted actually happened.
So which is exactly the point the movie's trying to make, and probably made in the first one already, to be fair, in that these feelings need to coexist. You can't have any one of them overbalancing the other, and that is also, I think, Joy's realization at the end when she is trying to cultivate this sense of self. I loved this idea of this tree that's
was so
rooted
cool,
in
yeah.
your experiences and your memories that defines your sense of self. And the way Joy was trying to sort of commandeer and construct this perfect vision of Riley, but that's not realistic. Riley is complex, and I love that
She was
by
making
the
her
end,
forget all of her, like she made Riley
Yes.
forget about the time she fouled someone and then she got in trouble from the referee. And then later on, Riley's fouling people.
Yeah.
Because she's
She's
forgotten.
throwing it to the back of the mind.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that I think that, like, this is a lot of territory that the first film had already covered. Joy's character arc is the same. Her realization that sadness needs to coexist with happiness is kind of the same. But it is done with a bit more complexity.
I felt like Enwi got the short shift. We should have had way more of her. Like, she was so funny.
Did you think it was a her? I thought it was male, but
I don't
who
know.
knows?
Whoever they were. I think Enui had a short shift. I think Embarrassment was just cute.
Oh, so cute.
And then was there three
they
or
were
four
my
new
favourite.
ones?
So you had Embarrassment, Ennui, you had Anxiety, and you had, I thought the weakest was Envy. Which,
Oh my god,
the
Envy
tiny
was just
one.
the same as Disgust.
But Envy had nothing to do, didn't really contribute
She
much.
did nothing,
There
and I
wasn't any
thought
big moments of
They made
of
Envy and
jealousy
Disgust
or-
the same character. And I actually, at one point, I turned to our kids and I was like, wait, what? I named their two colours.
What's
I was
that?
like, what are they? Because I needed a 4-year-old to tell me what they were, because they were the same character to me. I think they shouldn't have bothered putting Envy into the point of...
No.
I think Disgust kind of would have kind of sufficed there.
They should have kept one. It would have been more interesting to keep one of the OG crew in the mix, almost like they'd betrayed their friends. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
While they're
Fear
realising
was...
it?
But remember, Fear was saying he liked
Oh
anxiety.
yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
But then Fear also just totally benched. Like they basically sent.
But anxiety is more complex. Maybe anxiety, like fear, maybe is like the fear of like what's right in front of you, like a hole you might fall down or something.
Yeah, anxiety
But
is looking
anxiety
further
more
into
complex,
the future.
so
yeah. No, I get that, but
anxiety edging out the fear.
the problem
they
is
coexist.
the problem was that they there's the whole bit where all the old characters, the OG crew, get kicked out and put into mental jail, and
I
they,
love that.
they go on the hero's journey, the adventure, where they have to get to the back of the mind, get returned. But that's really just the same construct that happened in the last movie, which was but it was joy and sadness, and that was more interesting because that was sort of a duality buddy comedy thing. What you get here instead is they send sadness back because they realize we have to do this a bit differently.
Yeah,
So they
get out of here,
do send her
sadness.
back, so that's somewhat interesting. But then it's just joy and the other three, and there's no room in this movie, to be fair, for any interpersonal
Oh no.
anything
It's all joy. It's
interesting
the
to
joy
happen.
show
It's just
again.
joy, and then the
Yeah.
three of them at one point are like, "You're always in control, Joy," and then she has a moment. But that's it. I mean, they don't contribute anything. And the other
But
thing,
I don't mind that. I think that's okay.
no, it's fine. I'm really finding tiny nitpicks in
Yeah.
what I think is a really great movie. But the other thing that kind of I thought, they try and do some interesting stuff with the journey inside her mind. I thought the thought police or the mental mind police throwing them in jail with Riley's dark secrets was kind of interesting. They do that thing that's
I
very
liked that,
popular
yeah.
now, where you have different animation styles.
Yeah.
I liked that they did the video game PlayStation 1
That was
graphic
really
character,
good.
which was kind of funny.
I like when
But-
they did the brainstorm and they visualised what that could look like.
Yeah,
That was
lots of
cute.
puns like brainstorm, stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
So it's got all the good stuff. It's a really. I don't know. Does it surpass the original as such? But
No.
it's certainly.
It's a perfect companion. Though.
It is
yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's a perfect companion. They kind of
there
did the
was-
same with a little bit of iteration. But the thing that I really liked was the way they presented Riley in the real world having a panic attack.
Yeah.
At the end, which I thought was beautifully done, and
it
both in the midst of it and the outside. There's her struggling to breathe, and then anxiety just running around in circles.
Yeah.
Very stressful.
It was.
And then the relief after that, and like noticing, like noticing sunshine and Joy
Yeah.
coming back in charge, and she wants you to take control, Joy. I found that really, really
I
moving.
think, and it was really, it's very a pressing and current thing, because we know, like, actually just in Ireland there's been recent studies done, and they're being done globally around young people and mental health, and young people are more anxious than ever and more stressed than ever. So this film will resonate with a lot of young people, I think, and I think it's great to see it kind of represented, because young people are just absorbing so much content, whether it's online or otherwise, that's incredibly stressful and doomsday-ish. And I'd love to think that people will take their tweens to this film and let them kind of focus inward on how they're feeling, instead of just kind of absorbing stressful things and not thinking about how you're reacting to them. So I agree with you on that piece. I think the most poignant piece for me, aside from that one, was when Joy said something along the lines of, maybe when you grow up you just don't feel that much joy anymore.
That hurt. That one hit.
Deep.
Because I'm like, gosh, she's right.
Because when you think back to when you're younger, like there's no bit greater fun in your life than when you were younger and you were just like
you don't feel
with your friends and you were just having fun because you had nothing else to do. And I feel really sad and like sorry for teenagers now when I see them all, because they're not connecting. From the outside, I can't speak for what it's like to be a teenager, but it feels like they're not connecting with their friends because you see groups of them and they're just all on their phones, and like that's so stressful. Like, whereas when we were younger, not to sound really old, but you'd just be sitting talking to your friends because you had nothing else to do. And I just think even that in of itself now, that like just time away from like screens and just hanging out with your friends is kind of being eroded. So I think there's loads of complex stuff going on in the world at the moment, and a film like this, very basic level and talking about emotions, is brilliant.
I completely agree. I think this film has real value.
It has real value, yeah.
So, hats off to it. I think they've done a great job.
I'm glad our kids saw it twice. They're using lots of therapy language in the house, which is great to hear.
One last thing I also like, just on the subject of teens socialising with each other. I thought, we've spoken a lot about inside Riley's head. What was going on the outside? I think a lot of those situations and setups were a bit sort of old hat, I think, in terms of, trying to... in one hand, I'd seen a lot of this before. It's very much, there's a new friend group, but you don't want to alienate the old friend group.
That really matters, though.
I know. I'm saying I just found they didn't do anything particularly interesting or new on that front. But what I did admire again was that they there was no bad guys. It's I thought it'd be very easy in that to make a sort of another teenager be a bully or be a villain and create anxiety through and stress through that, which is a very common experience. But no, actually everyone in Riley's realm was being very nice and kind to her. Right? Did you find that on both sides?
The pressure just came from
the pressure was all internalized.
Well, the pressure, in fairness though, but I agree with you, there's no bad guy, but like her friends are like, we're moving to a different school than you. That's the absolute worst thing that can happen when you're a teenager. And then the other new friends she wanted were like joking, but like she didn't take it as such. Oh, you better score like 3 goals today or you're not making the team. So they're two catastrophic events for a teenager.
But
that's why I think the film, I think it's interesting to see the film like just what a tiny, essentially very small looking situation, like the level of stress that induced on Riley on like a really pivotal weekend in her life. Like, it's interesting it was only set over a weekend, and the last one was set when she's moving house, right? So they kind of captured on 2 very stressful moments in Riley's life, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
2 big huge transitions for her. So when are we going to get to Riley, the kind of late teen years? I love the nod at nostalgia. That was so funny.
I don't know where you...
The nostalgia thing was very funny.
Oh, that was really funny. I laughed at that.
Yeah,
very, very good.
I don't think they're going to go any further though and make us like a teenage Riley. I think that would be out of Pixar's zone. Yeah. But anyway, thank you everyone for listening. Let us know what you thought about Inside Out. Surely a lot of you have seen it. And we will be probably reviewing a lot more animations as it's summertime and they all come out and we're bringing our kids to them. I think the next one, I don't know if we record an episode on it or not, is it Minions 4?
Oh God, I don't want to see that. It's Despicable Me 4.
It's Despicable Me 4 anyway. We may not record that, but we'll definitely watch it. Anyway, thanks everyone
That's
for
listening. They're exactly the kind of movies which are the opposite of this that I was trying to hint at earlier. I mean, like, I know Minions is a phenomenon, and I get it. Our kids love them. Yeah. Like they're just perfect toys. They're funny and cute as well. I do recognize that. Mm-hmm. But those movies are, as far as I can tell, I've only seen 2 of them. They're not really trying to say anything or do anything. It's just all...
They're not this.
It's all aesthetic.
They're really trying.
It's style over substance.
And anyway, head over to our Patreon at the www.patreon.com/theCinemile, where we're doing weekly reviews of House of the Dragon. We're just about to review The Boys over on Amazon. We're watching loads of retro movies and talking loads of TV as normal. And the first 7 days are free. If you sign up and you hate us, you can just... sign out again and never give us any money.
Don't hate us. Don't. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
What is that? It's the sarcasm.
Sarcasm? Boy, are we so lucky we ran into you guys.
Boy, are we so lucky we ran into you guys.
Wow, those guys are jerks. Wow, those guys are jerks.